Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com and today I'm here with the January 2018 Love from Lizi card kit. I really liked this card kit because it had a lot of elements that would be perfect for cards for kids, and since I like to donate a lot of my cards to organizations that serve children such as Cards for Hospitalized Kids, I knew that I'd be able to make a lot of great cards with this kit. I also really wanted to use these wooden letters that were included with the kit because I thought it might be one particular supply that some people might be a little bit more apprehensive of or not quite sure what to do with. So I just wanted to make sure to feature that and give you an idea for using them. The letters are quite large, and you could of course do some non-card projects, but I wanted to show that the scale actually does work for cards. I'm just going to be able to spell short words. So here I'll spell the word hi, but three-letter words often fit as well, so you could also use you. I thought of you could use you and then pair it with some of the letter stickers to complete a sentiment, because there are also some gray letter stickers in this kit. Once I laid down a bunch of adhesive on the back of the paper, I used Elizabeth Crafts adhesive, which is like a full sheet of adhesive, but you could just lay down a few strips. I then attached the letter and I trimmed it roughly out with my scissors. But to finish it off, I am using a metal file. You could, of course, also use a nail file, although this step might not be necessary since after I filed it down, I wasn't entirely happy with the way it looked just because I wasn't able to get a uniform look across it. I decided to ink it up, and if you're going to ink it up, you might want to skip the step of filing if you think that that's enough, but the filing step certainly does take care of any little imperfections in the trimming. I tried to at first just kind of swipe my stamp pad or my ink pad across the letter, but again, it really wasn't giving a very uniform look, and it was kind of tricky to figure out how was I going to get that stamp pad, that ink pad, in between the bottom of the H. So I decided that the smarter idea would be to use the finger dauber, because then I could control where the ink was going and I could put the ink a little bit easier between the letters. You could use a makeup sponge, a Ranger blending tool, whatever you kind of have on hand. I just had a couple extra ink daubers, so I just snagged one out of my drawer, and I'm inking the edges. It also gives a finished look because it covers the wood edges, whereas if you were to just cover it with paper, those would still be exposed on the side. And you could do this for any of the other ideas, any of the other letters, any other saying that you wanted. I just picked some pattern paper from the kit because I wanted to show how you could use it directly with the kit. You could paint the letters to give them some color instead. You could ink them directly. You could just take an ink pad to them rather than, having to have any sort of specialty supplies, as most people have some colored inks. But again, I was trying to pull in elements of the kit. So I'm going to put those on one of the journaling or cut apart cards. I use my ATG Scotch adhesive for almost everything just because it is super strong. I picked out some other pattern paper from the kit as well in order to provide a large sheet on my card. All of the cards I make today are going to be A2 size. There were 6 pieces of cardstock in the kit, which would make 12 card bases, but one of them was kind of a patterned pink, and so I decided to skip that one, and I made five sheets of cardstock into 10 card bases with the cardstock from the kit. So that's what I'm going to be using today for my card bases, and they're going to all be A2 size, and when I cut the pattern paper slightly smaller than the A2 size, I'm consistently going to cut it to 4 by 5 1/4. So, every time if I forget to share the measurements, that's what I'm doing. I wanted to pull in the stickers from the kit, and I wind up using the stickers and the pattern paper a lot just because they're kind of what personally drew me into the kit, but I do try to incorporate some of the ribbon. I use the stamp set a few times, and there are just some other little elements in the kit. There were a few elements that, while I personally liked, I did avoid because I was going to be making these set of cards for donating. So things like the Nuvo drops are adorable, but because they do create small parts, because they could be pulled off the card. They fall off the card or anything, but they could be pulled off. And they kind of look like candy. I decided not to use those just because I don't want it to present a choking hazard for kids, but I think they're adorable, and I really like using them. I like the look they give on a card. So if you know who you're giving the card to, I think that you could incorporate the Nuvo drops easily onto some of these designs. For my second card, I was returning back to the stickers because the stickers are really fun and they were something that I knew I could use for the set of cards that I was making. I also wanted to show how even though the stamp set only has 2 sentiments, there are actually a lot of other sentiments that you can make with the kit by using the letter stickers, by using the flat stickers here, and by using those wooden alphas that I showed at the beginning. So here I'm sort of creating my own sentiment that says Dream Big Princess. And since I'm going to use the crayon that says Dream Big, I decided to pull in the crayon pattern paper as well. You could, of course, cut out some individual crayons from that pattern paper because they all have little sayings on them, and try to turn one of those into a sentiment as well. At first, I thought I was just going to use regular stickers, but I thought that there was also an ideal time to pull in those Love from Lizi peel-offs. I think these are a unique, fun part of the kits. I like that they add just a pop of color, and often they have a bit of shine or some glitter. I also like that when they are glittery, I can still use them because the glitter is completely sealed. There is no flaking off. And some of the organizations that I donate to request absolutely no glitter, and others say as long as the glitter doesn't flake off, you're good to go. So if you're interested in donating cards, just because I've mentioned it a few times at this point, there is a resource on my blog. You can go to jesscrafts.com, and at the top there will be a link that says Card Drive Resources, and there I have links to a few different organizations that you can donate to, as well as some jokes that you can put inside your cards for donating if you're not sure what you want to put inside. And of course, check the requirements of each organization before donating. Next up, there was some more cut-aparts or journaling cards that I wanted to use from the kit. I really liked the rainbow kite that was used, and I wanted to incorporate this little girl. In the card kit, there are at least 2 cut-aparts, and I think there might even be a few more, that included children of color, and I wanted to make a point to use those just because, again, when donating these cards, I think that it's important to make sure you're representing all kinds of people in them, so that when they get some cards, it'd be nice to see that, it reminds them of them. And so when I color images of little kids, I try to, or things like I colored mermaids or pirates in the past, I try to just use a variety of skin tones, and I try to make sure that some of my cards are great for girls and others are great for boys. I think it's really easy to make girl cards. I think there's a lot of great girly things on the market, and they're fun, and being a girl, I like some of those, but I try to make sure that there's a variety. I know that when I used to donate to Operation Right Home, they always mentioned that they needed some more masculine cards, and so I just try to keep that in mind even in this slightly different purpose. To pull in the stamp set, I decided not to do some coloring just yet with it, although the stamp set would be great for coloring with your chameleon markers. If you've been a subscriber to Love from Lizi for a while, you probably have a really nice set of chameleon markers going, and you could color a lot of things from this stamp set. I'm thinking back to October when there was a skin color marker, there's an orange marker in this particular kit, there was been a purple, a green, etc. And you could color a lot of images. But I just wanted to show a slightly different way perhaps of using them than just coloring the little images, although that is something super fun that I like to do regularly. So what I'm deciding to do is I took this wonky stitched heart from Cat Scrappiness and I cut it out of one of the pieces of pattern paper from the kit. Then I stamped a focal point and a focal sentiment. I used the Let Your Dreams Set Sail, and I stamped a ship in black so that would really draw your attention. But I wanted to basically create my own piece of custom pattern paper. So I've taken a light color of brown ink and I tested it out on a scrap just to make sure that it looked the way that I wanted to. Kind of almost gives like a watermark effect just because it's very tone on tone. And I stamped it all over the heart to, like I said, create sort of my own pattern paper. But there's a clear highlight around the sentiment. I was trying to think about what else I might want to include with the card because I had picked out this book-themed pattern paper from the kit. I liked it because the idea of like let your dreams set sail and kind of going on adventures in books, they kind of tied together in my mind, and that's a little story I'm sort of telling myself with that. But in the end, I thought that since there was actually kind of like 2 pattern papers already and they were both pretty prominent and busy that I would just kind of leave it there. There was that little cat who kind of just called for a sentiment because he has his thought bubble there. So I stamped Dream Big Little One for that cat, and I'm going to return to that later, but I also had a little piece of blue scrap paper, and I wanted to pair that up with this other cut apart or journaling card here. Not really a journaling card since, there's no spot to journal on it, but I never know what to quite call those things. I also wanted to pull in a little bit of vellum from the kit. I use vellum often to create shaker cards, and actually I didn't even create a shaker card with this kit, even though the sequins are really adorable and they make a great shaker card. I just feel like I've done a lot of shaker cards in the video, so if you wanted some inspiration for that, you could probably, or some directions on that, you check out a different Love from Lizi kit video and you could kind of get some ideas. So this time I just sort of stayed away from it. But I layered the journaling card cut apart thingy onto that piece of vellum. And what I liked about that is it added that shine that the vellum includes, and it has a bit of that see-through element, but I didn't have to really worry about the adhesive or anything because most of the vellum piece was covered. And I did cover those little apples, which at first might seem like a bit of a waste of the piece of vellum because it's a patterned piece, but I did take advantage of the scallop pattern around the edges, and I didn't really have a purpose for the apples. You could, of course, make some really great teacher cards with this kit, and as a teacher, I'll let you know they're certainly appreciated. Just, a simple thank you even out of the blue, and those are great. Or have your kid write a little note. I mean, they are always well appreciated. But I don't have kids myself, so I don't have, teachers to give those to. Anyway, I just put that on one of the card bases. The Love from Lizi kits include really thick, nice cardstock, so I could leave a lot of the cardstock showing, and I still like the way it looked. Next up, I wanted to pull in a different one of the journaling cards, and I'll be honest, this is not my favorite card. I don't love the way it turned out. I think it's cute enough, and I think that there's probably a little kiddo who will get this in, the box of donated cards and will be perfectly happy with it, especially if they like rockets and cars and transportation kind of things. I just didn't think it was my best design. I wanted to frame the sentiment with the rocket ships. But once I did that, I still felt like it was kind of empty. I hadn't really incorporated a lot of colors, and I don't know if you can tell, but I did not stamp very well in that sentiment. The L looks a little bit messed up there, and so I'm kind of just trying to recover this card. I also decided to cut this journaling sentiment down because it is 4x4, and that's a little bit awkward to put on an A2 size card because it doesn't leave much room for a border, so I trimmed it down. And then I decided I wanted to try to pull in one of the other colors and fill out the card a bit more. So I decided to pull in some red, and I used candy, which kind of messed up the transportation theme because now all of a sudden there's candy on the card too. But I'm just kind of going with it at this point. Like I said, I fully admit that this is not my favorite card, not my best designing, but I just kind of wanted to show you, just stick with it, especially if you're just trying to send an encouragement card to a little kiddo, they are not going to judge you nearly as harshly as you're going to judge yourself. So I stuck with it. I'm going to fix that little one sentiment with a black pen, and then I'm just pairing some simple pattern papers with it. Since I did pull in the blue and the red with the stamping, I decided to pull in the yellow with the piece of background pattern paper. I wound up using a lot. I would say most of the pattern paper in this kit. And doing this 10 cards 1 kit video did kind of remind me of doing some of my 6x6 paper pad tutorials. So here, using my ATG gun, it kind of got messed up. And the way that it usually gets messed up is because I tried to go too fast. If you pull too fast on your ATG, you can sometimes wind up with difficulties with your adhesive coming off. So if in the past you've had some trouble or you're currently having some trouble, just try that. Just try slowing down a little bit as you apply the adhesive, and that might help. But as you can see, I was able to open up the gun and adjust the adhesive a little bit by just pulling it around since it got stuck, and I was able to fix it. So that's going to be a pretty simple card there. I kind of was like, at this point, I'm just going to stop adding things because every time I've added things so far, kind of liked the card a little bit less. Like those candies didn't really improve the card in many ways to me personally. So I just fixed up that sentiment and called it a day. Next up, I'm returning to that cat. Like I said, his thought bubble there just really called for a sentiment, and I thought, well, I could just make a simple card with him, but I wanted to, again, pull in some of those stickers. One of the little parts of the sticker set that I liked was there were some banners in it, and so I decided to use those on this card, and I placed that little cat in the corner so that the top left corner, so I put it in the bottom right corner, so that the top left corner would be left to add some of the banner too. I would probably shift my banner over a bit because it ends a little bit too perfectly on one side, and I think sometimes these things tend to look better if they're sort of hanging off each side a bit, but it turned out all right, and I'm just going to trim off the edge there and mount that on a card base. Next up, I wanted to show using the letter stickers. I'm actually going to use them on 2 different cards. But one of the reasons I wanted to show them is because I think, again, some people might be thrown for a loop a bit with them, thinking, well, I would just stamp a sentiment. Why am I going to go through with letter stickers? What's fun about letter stickers is that you can customize your sentiment and make it say exactly what you want it to. You could, of course, do something similar if you have letter stamps, but since they're included in the kit, I just wanted to show you a fun idea with them, and I personally really like the way the card turned out. I really wanted to use this little owl. I love owls personally. I have a lot of owls decorating my house, and my students know that I love owls and give me little owl things and draw me little owl pictures, and yeah, so owls are a little bit of an obsession of mine. So I really wanted to use it. And at first I was going to say, you are a hoot, and I was going to use the sort of like text messagey you and are as opposed to spelling out the words. But I guess maybe the teacher part of me got the better of me because I just didn't like the way it looked. I just wanted it to be spelled out nicely. I also didn't think like it really fit the particular style of the kit in some ways, or the card that I was doing, because this card winds up a little bit more, I wouldn't say elegant, but just it's not like bright and primary the way a lot of the other cards in the kit are, just because I'm going to use some gray pattern paper. So I change it to you are spelled out correctly, and then I pair it with the gray pattern paper that also has the stars that matches perfectly with that little cut apart there, and then onto the gray cardstock, and I'm going to pull in the silver puffy hearts, which is a ribbon of sorts in the kit, but I cut my puffy hearts apart to make embellishments, and I'm going to use some of the star gems from the kit. Now, as I mentioned before, using small parts is kind of a problem. It can be a bit of a potential choking hazard. So I kind of decided that this is probably just going to be a card that I send to someone else instead of donating. But again, just check the requirements at the particular place you're donating, because they might be fine with that. They might be giving to older kids who they don't have to worry about swallowing small parts. Or you can try to find an organization that donates to people in nursing homes or to soldiers. The You Are a Hoot, you could definitely add an encouraging message to that to brighten up someone's day, including, like I said, at that card drive resources page, I do include several organizations, and some of them do donate to adults, particularly, like I said, there are some on there that donate to military. Anyway, next card. I'm again going to use the stickers to build my own custom sentiment. There is that awesome sticker. The sticker is like the princess sticker. It's part of a long strip of tickets that say a bunch of things, but I decided to cut them apart because I wanted to, like I said, make custom sentiments with it, just to kind of show a little bit of interest and variety with this kit. So I'm going to spell out you are. I personally find that I'm okay about lining things up. Like, I do a pretty good job spacing things, so I don't worry too much about placing them down, but I also am sure to place the letters gently until I have the perfect placement, because if you push them down too hard and then you don't like where they're placed or they're a little bit crooked, it can be really hard to pull them back up again. So that's just kind of my general strategy, but I've heard the tip that you can put them all on the edge of a ruler, and if you put them on the edge of the ruler, then you can make sure they're exactly the way you want and kind of pull them over to your card and then press them down. I've always found that a little bit more difficult personally, and I decided not to do it, but just a suggestion if you want to give that a try. So I'm going to try this journaling card on a few different pieces of pattern paper. Like I said, there's not very much left in the kit. I think I only have one more card after this. So I was a little bit limited in my choices. You notice there's a rainbow stripe paper. That rainbow stripe paper is adorable. It was definitely one of my favorites in the kit just because I like rainbows too. So kind of similar to my obsession with owls, but not quite as severe. And I just couldn't decide. I want it to be like on the perfect card. I didn't want to like waste it. Do you ever get that with pattern paper where you're like, you really, really love a pattern paper so you don't use it? Or am I the only one? Like, let me know in the comments if you want to, if there's like a particular pattern paper that you've hoarded for a while. But I'm happy to say I did not hoard it very long. Instead, I used it to cover some clips, and I'm actually going to have another video on that, a very short one, coming up in probably the next few days here on my channel, where I show you how to cover clips with pattern paper. And I figured if I covered some clips with it, then every time I use the clips, I could enjoy the pattern paper, and that would be a good use of it rather than giving it, well, I mean, giving it away is a great use of it too, but that way I could kind of like hoard it without hoarding it because I was using it on those clips. Anyway, I added that little strip of ribbon to the side there, and as you might have seen, I added my ATG directly to the ribbon. I find that to generally be easier. In the past, there have been many times when I have decided to try to put the ATG on my paper and then lay the ribbon on, but every time I try to do that, my ATG, my adhesive, gets a little bit crooked. I guess just the rolling motion, or I need to go slower. I don't know. I have trouble laying adhesive down straight. So I choose not to, and I just put the ribbon straight instead. Now I'm on to my last card. I really wanted to use this set of stickers just because there were some really cute images in it, and I thought, why not take advantage of them? However, my sticker wound up a little bit crooked, which is kind of a bummer because it stuck down pretty well there, and if I try to pull it up, I'm probably going to tear my paper. So here we are with another card where I'm just saying to myself, this is going to a child who's going to love it because of the encouraging message on the inside and the cute little images, and they're not going to be like, well, it's a millimeter off and crooked, so this is junk. Like, we're usually harsher on ourselves than our recipient's going to be, children or not. Because also, I doubt if you handed this to your best friend or whoever, they're going to be like, well, it's crooked. What are you thinking? I don't like it, kind of thing. So, and I guess in a sense, if someone does say that, like, I mean, it's one thing. If they say it's crooked, no big deal. Like, they're just probably trying to be helpful or whatever. But if they don't enjoy the card because you made a little mistake, well, they can have store-bought cards from now on. They don't need the homemade ones in any way. I decided once I put those stickers on there to just add a little sentiment in the corner from the stamp set and keep it pretty simple. That's going to be it for my 10 cards, 1 kit video today. I hope you enjoyed and got some fun inspiration. I'll have a coordinating blog post, and I will leave links to Love from Lizi in the video description. I have truly enjoyed my time on the Love from Lizi team. I have been able to work with some great kits, but at this time I am not going to be continuing to work with the Love from Lizi kits. I am my design team term has ended, and so I will this will be on the Love from Lizi channel, but if you're on my channel, Jess Crafts, I will link you to Love from Lizi so you can subscribe to their channel and continue to get other inspiration from Lizi's awesome design team members. Thank you so much for watching.